Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Very good. How about yourself?
Good, thank you.
Good. Glad to hear it. Hello, Tomas.
Hello, hola.
Hola. Yeah.
Start learning your Spanish, baby. They're lining up at the border.
Oh, boy. I'll say. I'll say.
Oh my God. What are they going to do with all those people? How are they going to feed them? And how are they going to, what if they all got COVID or whatever? What the heck are they going to do with them?
Well, I don't know. They can't, they're just going to be more unemployed and more people collecting benefits. And it's, I just saw on the front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning that Janet Yellen's, the first thing she's got to deal with is a $21.6 trillion deficit. That's what we're in the hole right now. I don't know where they think this money's coming from.
They're printing it.
Yeah, just keep
Good
printing.
afternoon.
Hello.
Hey, Dave. How you
How
doing?
you doing? Fine. Tom, I failed to mention something in our impromptu meeting the other day. Some of the benches down at Happy Hollow are in horrible shape. And I think we should bring that up. I'll bring that up also. Some of the benches are literally falling apart.
I
Yeah.
did, Dave.
Yeah, I did have a
already did, and supposedly they're taking care of that. So,
Oh, so you did mention it then.
well, you can go ahead and mention it. Maybe you carry more weight than I do
No,
because
I doubt it. I don't carry any weight.
I've been asking that for several years and nothing's happened.
Really? Well, the damn benches are just getting worse and worse, and they look like hell.
I saw that. I'm with you.
Okay, well.
Well, no,
we'll let
mention it. You mention it. I'll certainly bark up at everything you say. I hear it.
Okay, when can I bring that up? Any?
Well, I don't know. Certainly at the end, if you got it.
At the end, if we don't talk about it, at the end, I can bring it up. And the
Yep.
other thing, if you can just ask me, I have an update on the
Oh,
Western Berks.
yep, I can do that. We'll
Yeah,
do
that'll be a quick update.
That's okay. We'll do it right after the public comment.
Hey,
Okay,
Tom.
great.
Hey, Tom and Dave, when I met with Dan and Michelle last week, he brought up about the park benches, and they are going to start repairing them using that synthetic material.
tracks.
Oh, okay. Well then, because they do have some benches out along not Park Road, across from the pool, and it looks like it's some kind of a different synthetic material or something. I'm not sure what it is. That's
So
probably
they've
what they're
actually,
talking. I'm sorry.
they've actually started repairing some of them. Estimated
Okay.
cost, I think, with all materials is like $60 to $70 per bench.
Okay.
They're finding the benches that were repaired 2 years ago, the wood's rotted out already.
Yeah.
So they've done an inventory, and I mean, they're working towards repairing and or replacing all the ones that need it.
Okay, great. Then I won't even bring it up. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Well, we can get a progress report unless there's more. Who's doing that, Dan, or who's doing that, Michelle?
The parks guys, who unfortunately right now are a little stymied by being short-staffed between COVID and other issues.
Well, maybe you can borrow some of Jim's guys or something.
I'll make that suggestion, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
I know. Okay. Well, I'm glad something's finally being done, but it's taken forever to do it. I don't know who's been looking at those for the last 2 years, at least. They're
Yeah,
falling.
and it just looked horrible.
I agree. You can't even sit on some of them.
Oh my goodness, no! And with the little kids running around there, it's a danger.
Yeah, I saw that.
Splinters and what have you.
Yeah, I know there were big sharp pieces, but I don't understand why people can't see this stuff. Is what I don't get. But
Well, I know.
So Tom, I think you're touching on a much bigger issue that ties back into a conversation I had with Bill and Steve last week with Dan Macrina. I don't know that, I guess since the conversation's coming up here, perhaps this committee is the appropriate place to further discuss some of those, what I'm gonna call parks capital projects, specific projects in the Parks Department that need to be addressed. But I mean, that was part of what we discussed last week.
Okay.
See, Dave, our impromptu meeting did have some good.
Boy, I'll tell you, boy, whew, that's sort of scary.
Are we, I guess, do we have everybody? And I have 3 o'clock here. So unless you want to, well, we'll call the meeting to order, and then, Melissa, I guess if you want to give us a roll call, just to make sure we got everybody
Okay. Tom Boucher,
here.
David Reeser,
Here,
Steve Brunner,
Here.
John Woodward,
Here.
and Tom Mull.
Here,
Okay, and we need to reorganize this committee also, so we'll take nominations as they appear or heard from or whatever.
make a motion to keep Tom Boucher as chairman of the infrastructure committee.
Second.
I heard that train, John. Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? All right, and the ayes have it there. Okay, thank you for that job there. And now we move on to public comment. Do we have any visitors here? I don't have the whole screen.
Yes, I am here.
Oh, okay.
I
Go ahead.
have two issues today. Of course, the same issue with Spiral Lane. We have the same situation. Nothing has happened. Nothing materialized. Nobody has done anything whatsoever. This morning, so when you said that this is like everywhere, no sidewalk in this borough has vegetation that close. There's no such thing.
Okay,
We have established, I brought you so many times, all vegetation has to be, or trees and bushes have to be 2 feet away from property line. That it's, this is not something that needs a huge investment. We have discussed this. I really expect some form of action here. There's been none. Like I said, this is not costing money. This is just the will to do your jobs. Number two on the agenda is, or my agenda, is that we had this discussion before about the reed fence of Mr. Cullen. That is not conforming. He had a building permit some time ago, and he continues to add, subtract, move that thing, whatever he pleases, without any permit. And that thing is not, I mean, done per borough code. The borough code requires specific materials. It's not so expensive to put a fence of wood over there or something that is a proper material that's not going to fly away at the next storm. Again, just a couple of days ago or yesterday, I think, he added some more reed going up. He clips them with zip blocks, zip ties, I'm sorry. And it's just, that is ridiculous. Why is something like this allowed? I don't know. So this is the end of my speech today. I appreciate you letting me finish.
okay. Thank you, and so noted. Western Berks, Dave.
Okay, I think I'd mentioned last month that we got the operating permits for both phases of the pipeline and the treatment plant. We are working on the agreement now between the Army Corps of Engineers and the Delaware River Basin Commission. That is going along very nicely. We're in the process of flushing the line and doing a backwash of the treatment plant. And we're projecting that next week, we're going to start flowing water. It's only taken us 8 years to do that, but so I think we're finally starting to get some water out of that pipeline, hopefully next week.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
good. All right, and I
Is-
see.
Is Chris
on the-
there?
Yes, Chris is. And Chris, do you want to add anything or have any comment there?
No, I think Dave covered it. Thanks.
Okay, we're up to date then. Okay, thank you, Chris and Dave. Okay, Michelle, I guess zoning and codes reports there.
So some additional information I'd like to add. I pulled the end of 2020 report. I typically give this committee an update at the first meeting of the new year as to the prior year compared to the year before that. So looking at building permits for 2019 compared to 2020, in 2020, we actually had 27 less permits that were applied for, but the difference in construction value was almost $100 million more in 2020 than 2019. And our permit fee revenue, because of that, increase in the construction value, was almost 200,000 more in 2020 than it was in 2019. So the good news here is while there were 27 less projects overall that were done in the borough, the overall cost of those projects was $100 million more in overall value, which that should obviously lead to long-term higher tax reassessment, since a copy of all those building permits goes to the county tax assessment office. I originally thought the anomaly was the Drexel University College of Medicine, but that estimated construction value was only 27 million and the fee for that was only 65,000. So, that's a quarter of what we're looking at, but it's not the entire picture. Other significant projects were 16 villas at the Highlands of Wyomissing, and then other, I'm not going to say significant on their own, but just general improvement projects to commercial properties that when you total them up do make a significant impact. So I'd say overall we fared pretty well in 2020 compared to 2019, even considering a pandemic. Regarding the actual report itself, 2 updates, actually 3 updates. 1017 Fairview Avenue, the property owner did get in touch with Kraft last week. They provided a quote from a stonemason from November of 2020 with a cost of, it's number 21, Melissa, thank you. With a cost of approximately $1,500 to repair the wall. So the owner did indicate he has had some financial difficulties because of COVID, but he understands that the repairs to the wall do need to take place. So as soon as the weather breaks in the spring, he has indicated he's going to move forward with the contract to have the wall repaired. Wyomissing Hills Pool, I've not heard anything further from anyone, nor has Chris at Kraft. So that's just an FYI. And the zoning hearing board hearing that was held last Wednesday for 1222 Delaware Avenue, the board denied the request.
Okay, now that was the shed thing?
Correct. The shed that was installed without a permit after the property owner was told twice in writing in 2019 and 2020 that he would need zoning hearing board relief to install said shed.
Yeah, I've seen the shed. It's there back toward the alley and next to the other guy's property.
So he will have 30 days from the date the written decision is issued to remove the shed.
It's a nice looking shed, but obviously doesn't follow the rules. Okay. Anyone else have any other questions about anything that's on there?
I'd also like to address Mr. Jadek's comments during public comment. Steve and I were actually out at Spiral Lane around 12:15 this afternoon and
Yes.
walked from Old Wyomissing up to the bottom of the staircase that comes off of Cardinal Road.
Yes,
We were all in agreement that there's nothing there that looks any different than pretty much any other sidewalk or alley in the borough. And as I explained at last month's meeting, the definition for street in the streets and sidewalk section of the borough code, while it does include sidewalks, it also includes alleys in that area where vegetation can or cannot be planted. So if we're going to enforce this on Spiral Lane, we would have to enforce this in every alley throughout the borough, which you are all very much aware has vegetation planted up to the very edge of it in most of our alleys.
they do. That's correct.
I just want to
Right.
say that I cleaned that thing. You came now, you did not come when it was at its worst.
So
I
it's-
have cleaned
that's
it.
good.
You have seen a cleaned area.
Listen,
Good.
this is Steve. I was there obviously today with Michelle because I wanted to see. I've been there, but I hadn't. That's the first time I've been there with, and Michelle was nice enough to show up. There are some things that need to be done. I think probably painting the railing would be a good idea. And there's a step at the very bottom of coming down from Cardinal down the first set of steps. There's a step there that should have some cement in it, which I think we can touch on. But as far as the vegetation goes, I don't see it being any different than any other alleyway I drove through on the way home from there.
And there's some lifted slabs that are a trip hazard around the middle of that path. There are some trees that have, one was when Mr. Moll had it, there was a big tree, but the new owners now they cut it, which has stopped lifting, but it's still lifted. And then there is another tree by the light pole, which is live and keeps lifting that slab. And those are public trees. I'm sorry, those are private trees. So they're, I understand that some of the vegetation does not lift the slabs, but these two big, large trees are right adjacent to the thing and they keep lifting it. And what I'm trying to say, at least let's ask them to cut it so it stops lifting. The other thing is those, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we got Steve's notes and Michelle was there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to get into discussion. I just want to tell you.
It's just that what you saw today, I went over there and blew up the leaves, raked the leaves. What was, as I have reported before, they're blowing the mulch and leaves onto that path. All we have to ask them is to stop doing this. I should not be the one to go down there with a blower to keep the path open.
And as I've told you multiple times, Mr. Jadek, that is not a code violation. There are landscaping companies and property owners throughout the borough that blow their leaves out into the sidewalk and onto the street.
And is that okay?
It's okay in the sense
I
that
have-
typically leaf collection happens on the street and there is not a
On the
single
street is-
sentence in the code that allows me to tell someone they cannot do that. There is no restriction saying where you can or
It-
cannot blow your leaves.
The international maintenance code that you many times asked, and that also deals with a snow on that path. So we have things in place to just ask those people to stop doing this. It's just common sense.
Well, that we don't seem to have a lot of around here. With some people, not everybody, but common sense sometimes seems to elude people. I must admit that.
I agree.
And I've seen it at lots of other places as well, so.
Well, let's start somewhere.
Well, I know, I hear you.
Okay. So I
Okay.
appreciate for the frank discussion, but all I'm saying is just apply some simple common sense, ask those people, maybe they don't even know their contractors are doing this.
All right,
It's just that simple.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else there, Michelle, that you want to cover? Are you
Not
good?
unless anybody has any questions.
No, good right now. All right, onward here, the Lincoln, or 2011 Lincoln drainage. I guess that's Jim. Is Jim here? I didn't see him. Jim McCarthy here?
I think he's in the process of flying back from Florida, but I believe John Williams from his office was supposed to be on the call.
Oh, okay, I do see him there. Is it Jim?
John?
Or John? I'm sorry, John, do you want to give us any information there on number 6?
Can you guys hear me all right?
Now we can, yes.
Okay. So, I don't think I was directly involved here, but just from the notes, it looks like we did some field inspections out at Lincoln, and the decision was that there was sediment accumulation that needed to be removed, but the homeowners there are actually the responsible parties for the maintenance. It looks like the owners at 2011 are at some point going to present some sort of cost share proposal.
Yeah, I think we got that before, and if I'm correct in my thinking here, or my thoughts or recollections, we were really not going to go that direction because there were so many things we could share costs with in the borough that we would be setting a huge precedent there, I believe. But
Understood.
yeah, so I don't know what do we have to do? Turn it back to them or send them a note, or what's the next step there? Do you know? Did Jim say?
Not that I know, but I believe that will be the next step, is just to maybe send a letter to those homeowners reminding them of their responsibility for that.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. And I'm not sure if they've received the message about the borough position on cost sharing.
Okay, and I don't know, do we have to make any motion to that kind of thing, Chris, or not? Or is it just like we're kind of all in agreement, or?
Well, I think it would be appropriate to recommend to council rejection of the
Cost share?
2011 Lincoln's cost share proposal, and to advise them that they need to undertake maintenance.
Okay.
Sounds right to me.
I'm sorry, what?
I was just confirming that sounds like the best course.
Okay. All right, so I need a motion and a second, I guess, from the committee. Chris, is that right?
Yes.
Move it to council?
Yes.
Don't move.
I
I'll
heard
make
a
the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry, good
All
game,
right.
Pat.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, and we will make that recommendation. All right, thank you for that information. Sanitary sewer stuff there. Any comments on
Yeah.
number 7?
Right now, we have work begun with Mr. Rehab. I've seen them myself doing some of the recording of the lines here in the Berkshire Heights. Agreement ready for execution. Was that attached for council?
I-
Or maybe Jim Babb can take care of that with Pat directly. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Jim was looking for action on this or not, but in order to make sure this keeps moving, I would recommend a motion to recommend to council the execution of that agreement.
Okay,
You already passed that.
Jim, is Jim Babb there?
Yes,
Is that where we're at, Jim? Does that sound right?
that's where we're at. Already started work. We'll see their first payment application at the February infrastructure meeting.
Okay. All right, then I'll need a motion to execute the agreement there.
No move.
Got a motion and a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, ayes have it. Sanitary sewer. We need authorization for putting it to bid.
Yeah, so the 2021 project is pending right now. We have Jim Babb's information on new locations for the recording and cleaning. And we just want to make sure that's ready to be finalized and put out for bid.
Okay, so motion for that, please.
So moved.
Okay, and a second. I heard
Second.
Steve. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right. And the pump station project, same thing, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a permit involved there as well. We'd have to apply for.
I just want to keep clarifying this, that all the work for this year is to get a permit that is needed. So in the next 2022, hopefully, that we can upgrade the Berkshire Boulevard pumping station. The wet well will remain, the piping will remain, but the building and the controls in the building and the pumps in the building are now pushing 30 years old, and they need to be updated. So what would happen this year is just permitting to allow us to do that work next year.
Okay. So we need a motion for that one then.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, so moved, and a second, I guess. Was there a second?
Second.
All right, second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the ayes have it. We'll move that one along too. All right, water. Looks like same
Yes,
kind of thing.
Yes, and in this case, we're basically just putting out for bid what we had intended to do for 2020. So it's just moving it into this year. Plans are basically prepared at this point.
All right. Jim Babb, comment?
Yeah, one additional thing to that is later on in the meeting, I've been asked to bring up some capital projects that we could revisit. And there is a list of those, but we had a water main break at Greenwood Mall, at the entrance in the Greenwood Mall, back beginning of December, late November, beginning of December. And it opened up some issues with some old bad valves in that area, where to fix that leak, we almost had to drain all the water out of the Greenwood Mall section so we could work on it. So there's going to be some an additional few bid items on that work, other than just Monroe Avenue, which is what was planned.
Okay. That'll come along with that then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we need a motion for that one too.
So moved.
Somebody, motion, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and the ayes have it. All right, move along with that one. Anything else with water, Jim?
No, everything's pretty good right now.
That's good. Streets, number 9. Sidewalk
All right.
repairs. Ooh,
Yep. First of all, we did not do this program last year, so it's basically just doing our typical 50-50 cost share for the sidewalk. I don't know. Do we have a list prepared, Jim?
I have, we had already advertised and people had replied last year before we canceled it. I have 49 applications, which is a pretty high number at this point that are, I'd have to revisit and touch base with all those people to see if they're still interested. So I'm assuming the majority of them would be, but
Right.
49 is a pretty high number compared to years past.
well, that's good.
And yeah, essentially just the authorization to bid again. And I suppose this will be a later bid just because concrete work is typically done closer to spring or summer.
All right. Okay, well, I still need a motion to bid it out there, I guess. Jim, is that appropriate for now, Jim?
Yeah, past experience, I'd like to move as fast as we can. I'd like to have them try to finish up before leaf season. And we could do that if we hustle.
Okay, all right, then we'll need a motion to get that bid going there.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. There we go.
Okay,
All right. Next would be the street improvements, I guess. Is that what's up there?
yep.
Okay, go ahead.
This is, again, a continuation from last year. We've already awarded it to H&K Group. Just today, I received their 3 copies of the signed agreement, so we can have that executed by the borough. I spoke with Jim Babb. We're planning to do a pre-construction come sometime this spring, so probably give it another maybe a month or so. And then move on from there with notice to proceed.
Okay. So we don't really need any action there. We just gotta keep moving, huh?
Yep, just an update.
Okay. All right, 4th Street, which is on the screen there, I guess, right? Any
Yeah.
information? Go ahead.
So we did have change order 3 already executed, so current value is highlighted there in yellow. 1,785,481. Latest pay application, well, 1 and 2, we received the reimbursement from the DCED on December 21st, which included those 2 pay apps, and then engineering invoices have been submitted for reimbursement. Attached with this copy of the agenda, we have their 3rd pay application, which is for $154,595.97.
John, that was a little bit of a typo. We approved that by bypassing infrastructure at the last council meeting, number 3.
Oh, okay, so yeah. So
Yeah,
this
that-
just confirms the same number, I suppose.
Yeah, we did that with the idea that it was gonna be reviewed by you guys to make sure it was all okay.
Okay, well, yeah, I can confirm that it is, so.
Okay. All right, so we don't need any action there for that one. Okay. Anything else for that project right now?
They're working on the actual circle now. They put in some curb, and I think they're trying to pour some Thursday on that apron around the circle.
Okay.
The truck.
All right. The pedestrian request for a sign at Lowers and 1700 block of Delaware.
They've been installed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought, didn't we do that?
Yeah, they've been installed. They're all good to go.
Okay, so that's done.
I'll take note of that.
Okay. Yeah, because that can come off then. Okay. The pedestrian bridge.
That we need approval to have McCarthy put it out to bid. PennDOT has issued a letter of non-prejudice stating that the $633,000 grant that they gave us originally for 4th Street can be used towards other projects, including the replacement of this bridge. So we just need to move forward with actually putting it out to bid.
So
And
we
that
need
should be,
Go ahead.
that's just noting here the reminder that we have that permit valid until the end of June this year, so we want to try to get ahead of that.
Okay, so do we need, is there a motion we need to proceed, I guess, then, or is that? He has a
Yeah.
question mark there, yeah. Okay, so we'll need a motion for that to get that council.
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I guess somebody, I heard 2 voices there.
I was one, Tom.
Okay. And John, I
I
think was
think
the other.
John was too.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? All right, ayes have it. Jim, I guess this goes to you, the Public Works Facility stuff.
It actually goes to me.
Oh, you, okay, go ahead.
So the borough did not receive the RACP grant. Those grant awards were announced on December 23rd. I'm sure some of you saw in the newspaper that College Town, Alvernia's downtown college campus in Reading, received a $5 million grant. Senator Schwank represents that area as well, as does Representative Gillen. So while they were supporting our project, they were also supporting their project. And John and I have talked about this. While we did not get the money, I'm very excited for the city of Reading and what that could mean for the whole county that they did. So RACP is an annual grant. We need to make a decision as to whether or not we want to resubmit for the 2021 grant round for the same project. And this program does have a 50% match. So if we would receive the grant, we would be on the hook for $1.7 million.
Okay, and how does that finance, guys? How does that sound?
Great.
Well, I guess, does it hurt to apply and then you can decide or not? I
Doesn't
don't
hurt
know.
to apply.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Michelle, we will be without the services of our lobbyists at that point. Who's going to shepherd that grant process?
We have Kathy and Colleen through 2021. So we would be through the application and award process. It would be more the submission for payment, similar to what Colleen's doing for us with DCED now. I would say wait and see. There are multiple grant programs that we'll be discussing throughout the year. The DCNR grants are opening up again for parkland improvements. There's other potential grant funding sources out there for the fire department, FEMA, COVID equipment, other things that we could discuss in the future. And we're also going to find out in May whether or not we received the grant for the Berkshire Heights playground. So I think for now, the amount of time we have Colleen and Kathy under contract is good, but we may need to revisit that discussion later in the year, depending what we've applied for and what we get awarded.
okay. Well, then I guess, do we need a motion to resubmit there then, or do you just go ahead with that, Michelle? What?
Chris, do you want a motion for that? Yes, he does. Can you make a motion, please?
I'll make,
Okay. Motion to resubmit for that grant proposal.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to resubmit, and we will pass that on to council as well. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then the storm and flood damage info there on number 12. Jim, anything else there? Are they working on that yet, or?
The
Well, we
depth materials, the issue I'm having, guys, I would entrust with that project. Matt Hoffman, who's retired, and Earl Miller recently fell out of his tree stand and is going to be out for a month with some back problems, some leg problems. He got pretty torn up. So I'm not sure when it will start. I was hoping it would be starting in the next couple of weeks, but it may be another month or so.
Okay.
Project that need my more skilled people to do it, or not available.
All right, so at the moment, then that's just on hold, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Verizon stuff there. Chris, is that you?
Yeah, Michelle and I have been working on this. You can jump in, Michelle, but the background on this is that there have been some proposals to lease some space from the borough for installation of wireless communication facilities. And before we enter into any lease transactions, we want to make sure that there are some aesthetic regulations in place to make sure that with regard to any leased equipment that's installed on borough property or borough poles or anywhere else in the borough, that we have some standards in place for what it should look like. And in order to make this enforceable, it's necessary to put it into an ordinance. And the right place to put it, in my opinion, is in the existing zoning regulations for wireless communications facilities. So what I have prepared with Michelle's assistance is a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance that would put into place these new standards essentially for aesthetics of wireless communication facilities. So what I have included in the ordinance, just to give everybody some context, is the entirety of section 623 of the zoning ordinance, which is the regulation on wireless communication facilities. But the first 11 pages of the ordinance are for tower-based equipment, and we're not proposing any changes to tower-based equipment. So when we actually go to advertise this, we're not going to include those first 11 pages. That's just background information for you to put it into context when you review this ordinance. Beginning on page 12 is where the proposed additional regulations would be located in the ordinance. And this is regulations for non-tower based equipment, and the particular regulations beginning on page 12 would apply to both equipment that changes the support structure and equipment that doesn't change the support structure. And the relevance of that is that in some cases where somebody wants to install this wireless equipment, they will need to either reinforce or replace the support structure that it hangs on or is installed on. And so we have regulations that cover both installations that change and installations that don't change the support structure. Anyway, just to give you a flavor for what these regulations would do is they include, beginning on page 12, concealment requirements, so that if it is possible to have equipment that is not visible because it is behind some existing structural piece of a building, they're required to do that. If they can't put it behind some existing structural feature of a building, then they need to try to make it as invisible as possible on the exterior of the structure, and that would include making it as close to the facade as possible so it wouldn't stick out, and generally to make it as invisible as possible, and therefore have as the least amount of visibility. For rooftop mounted equipment, there's a regulation that requires it to be concealed by whatever effective concealing strategy is possible for the installation. And then there's a section about new support structures, and this would be typically if you have to put up a new light pole where there is not presently a light pole, that would be a typical new support structure. And where that type of installation is required, they need to fit into the street light standards that are adopted by the borough. And also there has to be some consistency in the placement so that there is a regular separation distance between street lights. And then there are some dimensional requirements so that there are never one of these installations closer than 125 feet to an existing equipment installation. They have to be at least 14 feet off the ground. They can't be installed on a structure that's greater than 35 feet in elevation in a residential zoning district. And then we have some additional aesthetic regulations such as not having any signage other than a very small sign no greater than 4 inches by 6 inches, identifying the owner of the equipment. You know, we don't want this kind of equipment to become a de facto billboard in the borough and have any kind of advertising signage on it. As part of the process for handling an application for a new installation under these regulations, we're requiring them to include in their application before and after simulations of the proposed location so that we can see what the concealment efforts have been and thereby review whether these regulations are being complied with and whether we can make recommendations for changes to improve the concealment. I think those are the essential regulations that I wanted to cover today. You know, I could have gotten into more detail than what I just did, but the point of this is to have regulations that recognize that this kind of equipment is necessary and that we're going to be getting requests for the installation of this type of equipment, but to try to make the equipment blend into the community as much as possible and have as little negative aesthetic impact as possible. So I think we're striking a balance with these regulations in accommodating the use while at the same time managing the impact. And these regulations, for the most part, are not things that we pulled out of our imagination, but instead is a compilation of what Michelle and I found to be the best regulations that are existing in other communities around the nation effectively. I mean, some of them are from Pennsylvania, but some of them are from outside of Pennsylvania as well. I mean, obviously, we want to answer any questions you might have, but what I'm seeking from the committee today is if you're satisfied with what you've heard, we'd like to move this on to the Planning Commission and to the Borough Council. Well, I guess you could send it to the Planning Commission directly or to the Borough Council to send it to the Planning Commission. But in any event, as a matter of procedure, this is going to have to go to the Planning Commission in one fashion or another. Are there any questions?
No. How many of these things are we gonna get, Michelle?
The application that Verizon had, I shouldn't say application, that inquiry / tentative lease agreement Verizon had submitted many, many months ago indicated there were 5 locations they were looking at with possibly more to come. And that was just Verizon. I mean, there's multiple cell carriers out there, so I would expect more to follow.
Right, and these would be on poles that we own, correct?
Well, these regulations would apply to any installation in the borough. They could go on poles that the borough owns, but they could also go on somebody else's poles like PP&L. They could go on structures, either structures owned by the borough or structures owned by other people. So the regulations would apply across the board.
Okay. And then like, who checks to see if all this is being done? Do we send somebody out or how does that work?
Zoning officer.
That would be me.
Okay. All right, so we might as well go right to planning, I think, rather than go to council and then back again. Makes the most sense, I guess. Okay, so I'll make a motion to move this to planning commission. If I could get a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right, off to planning commission for that then, Chris.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep. Okay, the school district's Woodland Road signal.
I did send the revised agreement to the school district for execution. I've not heard back from Mike Cafancelli that it's actually been executed yet, but once it is, the borough will need to execute it. And then, Chris, do we need to record that?
Yeah, it's intended to be recorded.
Okay, so we don't have to do anything else right now till you hear back, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then 15, the Aeroclave.
Yeah, there was information that was included with the infrastructure agenda. I had reached out to Aeroclave, which is a company that Western Berks Ambulance had purchased their Aeroclave from. We've borrowed it to do a sanitation of Borough Hall and the Public Works Maintenance Garage. The quote for the actual decontamination system, a hand sprayer applicator, which Tony Tucci indicated very much comes in handy for doing large areas like rooms as opposed to smaller areas like vehicles. A case of the disinfectant solution, and then shipping and handling comes to $15,743. The idea was between Borough Hall, the administrative side, the police department side, the fire department, the tree department, the maintenance garage, and the parks barn, we could put the machine on a weekly rotation that it's going to all of those locations, plus be used in the police department and fire department vehicles and potentially other borough vehicles if there is a potential COVID exposure, to sanitize the equipment and the facilities. Was also a quote included from Elk Environmental to give you an idea if we would have a COVID exposure, the cost that it would be to do a one-time clean is roughly around $500, and that would be for one facility. So to outsource the cost to do from a private company what this machine could do for us would roughly equate to $11,000 per week.
Okay, where is this thing going to be stored and who's taking care of it?
The idea would be to most likely, especially at this time of the year where the pool's not as needed, maintenance and repair, Kent would be the one taking it from location to location to do the sanitation. Outside of that, when it needs storage, we could either store it at the maintenance garage or, fire department, police department, wherever we feel is best appropriate.
And then do people have to be trained in this, or do you just aim and shoot, or what?
I think there's a mini training session. From what Tony told me, it's not that complicated. It's pretty self-explanatory, but there is a training session that comes along with purchase, yes.
Okay. And is he satisfied? Like, there's nothing that seems to break a lot or something, or?
No, I mean, he could not rave enough about how great it's been for them. How much they use it, how much they, quote unquote, donate theirs out to other places to do a sanitation if there's any type of exposure. He did not have a single negative thing to say about it.
Okay.
No, this is an unbudgeted item.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah. What's that coming out of, Steve?
No, I guess your pay.
Again.
We are due to receive a unbudgeted large payment for property transfer tax. I am all for what this allows us to do. I just got to figure out where we're going to put it in the money and what we need to do to pay for it. But I think it does make sense, to be honest with you.
Do we need, we don't need to take any action then. I guess it would be from you guys more than us, or do we have to recommend something here again, or just go ahead?
You could recommend it to the finance committee to try to identify a funding source if you think it's a good expenditure.
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody will deny that, right? All right, we'll pass it on to Steve's group, and when they find a spot that they can, finagle some or mush the money around to get it, I'd say let's go ahead.
I didn't read the whole thing, Michelle, just the dollars and cents for the most part. Did they give you indication how long it would take to get it?
They did not, but I can reach out. The owner of the company is extremely responsive. I asked for a quote and had one about an hour and a half later. So I can reach out to him and ask what the lead time is from the date the invoice is approved.
All right, well, then we'll need a motion to pass that on to finance to see about paying for it.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
makes sense, yeah.
The
Okay,
video that Michelle sent along is most informative. It's kind of an impressive unit that I see we get a lot of use out of.
yeah. Okay, good. All right, and then there was, Dave had, what, one or two things you just wanted to mention there, Dave? A couple of comments?
Regarding the trees at Happy Hollow, yeah. Walking down Happy Hollow as we do quite frequently, I noticed there are a lot of felled trees in back of the pavilion, and actually also across from the pavilion, that other small forested area there. And I'm just concerned that some of them look a little precarious as far as kids running around there. Would those tree things become loose or something? So I just, and plus the fact it doesn't look very nice. And I think the safety factor is also a concern. And the second issue at the playground, I think we had discussed, was the maintenance of the benches, which I think we had already discussed, and that is being looked into. So that's the only comments I had regarding the Happy Hollow. Thank you.
Dave, I can address your comments about the trees. I had actually talked to Dan Macrina earlier this afternoon. I know the tree department has been out to Happy Hollow and has done an assessment of some of the trees that need to be taken down or trimmed. Dan also indicated, give me 1 second. I just have the email.
While Michelle's looking for that, we did identify, and I don't know the count, I'm guessing 10 to 12 trees. I think it was 2019 that we deemed hazardous and had removed. I don't think that accounted for any trees that were already down. It was just standing trees that were deemed hazardous. I asked Mark to go out and look again, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, because the trees are actually down. I'd say there's at least behind the pavilion, there's at least, I'm guessing, 5 to 8 trees that are actually down on the ground.
What I was going to add is that Dan also shared about 2 years ago, he, Mark McLaughlin, and Greg Shearer were down there and evaluated all of the trees at Happy Hollow. Mark had made up a list and Martin Tree Service removed the hazard trees. Since then, there's been another evaluation, but regarding the trees that are actually down, I will talk to, I guess, Dwayne and Dan about getting those taken care of as soon as possible.
Yeah, they're actually down. I mean, they're.
Okay. All right, so you will hear back from either Dan or Mark or.
I can give you an update as soon as I have an answer.
All right, that's all right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I know they're working on the benches, so that's good.
Yes.
All right. Anyone have any other items that aren't on there right now for infrastructure?
Tom, I think I heard you talking when I checked into the meeting to talk about those park benches.
Yes.
And I just mentioned them again. So I was at, when I met with Dan Macrina on Friday. Call me naive, call me whatever you want. I had no idea. We were discussing some things, and I had no idea the barn sort of behind the Michelle, what barn am I talking about?
Parks Barn?
The Goodwin Barn.
The one that's right next to
Lozano.
Goodwin Barn.
Lozano's property.
Yeah, yeah.
I had no idea it was ours.
Oh, absolutely.
So, lo and behold, I wanted to take a peek at that, and I didn't know if there's. We talked about. I saw the wood for the. I guess they're using different woods for the bench, so it looks like they're trying to be proactive on that. That I did see. The other thing I have is Jim. Is any of that, or anybody know? Does any of those files that we have in that what I consider new property to the borough, which is just in my mind, are those files need to be there, or is there something that can be destroyed, or does it make sense to put them on microfilm? Or seems like I didn't get in the building. In the building where that has the files, I only got in the top part, but seems like we could use it for Jim Babb some other way.
The majority of that, of those files are old legal files from Stevens and Lee, and I think Masano Bradley. And there was a decision made as we switched solicitors. We had nowhere to go with them, so we kind of made that room. I don't know if anybody's looked in those files in 10 years. I don't know with Chris Hartman if that's stuff we would retain for infinity or not. I don't know.
Chris, under the PHMC regulations, can we convert the documents to, electronic format and then destroy the original with adoption of a resolution? Or do we have to keep the original copy in perpetuity?
Well, there are certain documents that you should keep as originals. But it all depends on what's in those files. If there are original deeds, or there are some documents that have some kind of permanent significance, you should keep the originals. And there's really no way of knowing without someone going through the files.
So step one would be getting everything out of that building and doing a staff review of what's in there and making a determination.
Yeah.
I'll add it to my to-do list.
Yeah, we could discuss what you should be looking for and try to narrow it down.
I was actually probably the last person to dig in those files, and I want to say it was 7 or 8 years ago. And it's, similar from what I would expect, Chris, if I came to your office and asked you to see, can I see your borough files? You have one for specific legal action that was taken, whether it was a property issue or a land development project or a personnel matter. It was very similar to that. So I would think some of it we're going to have to keep, some of it we may be able to convert.
Look, I wasn't trying to create work. That's the last thing I was trying to do. But at the end of the day, if there's something we could use it for otherwise, as we get to it, we could get to it. But I got to think in those horse stables on that sort of face to Masano's property, I got to believe that we could store some tractors or something in there.
Yeah.
All right, so noted there. All right, any other items? All right, if not, then I guess we'll adjourn.
I'll make that motion too.
I figured.
Second.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
Yep, you too.